astrology forecast for the week of April 30th, 2023. We're going to get off to a good start in just a moment. First, I want to say that if you happen to be watching this before Saturday morning, April 29th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, then please come to the hangout that we're going to be having live here on YouTube. It'll be from about 11:30, well, it'll be from 11:30 to about 12, and the topic of discussion is going to be Pluto in Aquarius thus far, very timely, and also Saturn in Pisces thus far. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. So please join us. If you're watching after Saturday at 11:30, you didn't miss anything. So you may be dismayed at the mayhem this May, and we begin the month with two very, very hot and fiery astrological events. We have Pluto stationing to retrograde on Monday, and then on Friday, we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Let's talk about these two events just a little bit so that we get a bit of an orientation to them. First of all, the Pluto station on Monday. That's going to affect Sunday, Monday, and to a certain extent, Tuesdays. Tuesday is a bit of a hangover. It wouldn't be that strong on Tuesday if it weren't for the fact that the eclipse is coming later in the week. So it sort of keeps that energy rolling for a little while. On a personal level, the most important thing to remember is that Pluto stations tend to be a little bit tense. This is not the great cooperative kind of feel. So there's a little bit of a power struggle thing that goes on sometimes. That's not terrific. It's probably a good day to do things by yourself. It's a good time to focus on one thing. This is not a real multitasker kind of day. I would suggest that we really kind of, it's the kind of day, I'm seeing clients all day too, but it's the kind of day where if you can just sort of get some time to yourself, take your little task, go into your cubicle or your attic or wherever you do your tasks and just sort of do them by yourself, you might have a little bit better part of the day. That might be the better way to get the energy working. If there is any sort of conflict or anything like that coming up, we can expect that it'll be tense, but not necessarily all that overt. Pluto doesn't necessarily act all that overtly. Anyway, just be aware that there is a potential for some irritability on Monday. That is a real possibility. It's not a sure thing or anything like that. It's just a bit of a possibility, and it's going to affect some folks more than others. So, not you, but some folks are going to be a little bit more irritable than they might otherwise be roundabout Monday. Now, the other thing to do on Monday is to watch and see what happens in the world. Pluto's first station in Aquarius in more than 240 years. Well, that's not literally true, but it's forget the math. Since like the 1700s, this is Pluto's first station in Aquarius. It's the first time Pluto's ever stationed in Aquarius that we know Pluto is out there. And we tend to get kind of important information when Pluto stations, especially the first time in a sign. We've certainly got that when he's stationed in Capricorn, and we'll get it again this time, I'm pretty sure. So pay attention to what happens. It's giving you something of a signal about what Pluto in Aquarius means. That's on the collective level. I mean, when he went into Aquarius, we also got a signal then too. So that's the, Pluto's announcing himself. He's going to be in the sign into 2044. So he's going to tell us quite a bit. Okay, so we got a couple of bits of information there on the personal level and also on the collective level. They're both pretty important. And we want to move on to the next big event, and that is the lunar eclipse. Now, this is a lunar eclipse in Scorpio, which means it's a full moon in Scorpio. Well, now, the moon doesn't really love being in Scorpio. It's one of her least favorite signs because the moon is soft and cream cheese, and Scorpio is cutting. The moon would prefer to just soft moonlight, right? There's a little moonlight glow. Scorpio is precise, cutting. So the moon doesn't love being in Scorpio. Every month we kind of feel a little bit of that. It's a very Plutonian sign. It really echoes the Pluto station. In fact, the Pluto station at the beginning of the week is an implosive energy having to do with Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio. And the full moon at the end of the week is the explosive energy, right? So they're winding up and popping out. So the moon doesn't love being in Scorpio, and the moon is not crazy about full. Again, the moon likes to be covered, does not like that full exposure. So the Scorpio full moon is always a bit of a challenge around this time every year. And this time it is given more power by being a lunar eclipse, right? That just sort of amplifies the power. I would say that this is, well, I will have to say this is the last eclipse of eclipse season, which means that after this eclipse, the energy kind of begins to dissipate a little bit. But it doesn't dissipate all that much because we have hot aspects that are going to keep it going next week and beyond. Okay, so in fact, right after the eclipse, we have the moon meeting up with Uranus. And then a couple of next week, we'll talk about it next week, the sun meets with Uranus. So we get a lot of this powerful energy all brought in together for quite some time. This is why we don't have much of a rest in the month of May, and why the first week is so very determining for the rest of the month. It's going to give us that real flavor. And that the other aspects this month are going to help us to understand exactly what flavor we ordered when we asked for this particular dish of astrological aspects. So those are the two big events of the week. They bookend the work week. Advice for dealing with the full moon: it's going to be a certain amount of lunacy. You might want to kind of go and do your own thing, but it's a full moon. You don't really feel, this isn't so much like you want to go into your own cubicle or go up to the attic or down the basement or wherever and work by yourself. This is a more outgoing energy. It's a full moon energy. So you have to find some constructive uses for it. Well, the easiest time to find some constructive uses for this full moon lunar eclipse might actually be before it happens. That's because we have some really nice energy coming from the planet Venus before we get to the eclipse. And this is going on at midweek. And so the midweek energy is nice, as Venus will square Neptune. And you're saying, well, now it's a square. Maybe that's not so good. But give a moment. Venus is going to square Neptune and then is going to make a sextile to Jupiter in Aries. Well, okay. The square to Neptune, especially with Venus in Gemini, this is a little bit of a slippery kind of thing, right? I mean, Venus is in Gemini, favors sociable, flirty, light, L-I-T-E, light approach to things. And Neptune in Pisces is, it's giving a soft focus. It's actually a pretty nice energy. I mean, Venus loves Pisces. That's like her favorite sign. So that's really good. So although this is a square aspect, I feel that, it's unlikely to be too problematic. Maybe it's kind of like possibly coming up to the full moon and all, maybe it's a kind of take a chance on someone sort of aspect. Maybe it's a, let's see what happens kind of aspect. But at the very least, it should be good for some socialization at midweek, get out with some friends, Gemini, it's good to get out with some friends and do some stuff, socialize a bit. Square to Neptune, well, maybe it's happy hour or something along those lines. And then there's the sextile to Jupiter. Now, Venus and Jupiter are great friends, and Jupiter's at the end of Aries, where he's very happy. And again, it really sort of fosters this air of sociability and fun. And in the midst of all this intensity that we have this week, it's actually kind of a light aspect, light series of aspects. So, you know, if you're gonna have some fun this week, I'm thinking maybe Wednesday, Thursdays, and maybe, you know, heck, the aspects are building. Why not Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? Maybe midweek is the time that we should really be looking towards for having a little bit more fun, you know. Now, after we get past that full moon eclipse in Scorpio, we come into the weekend and things begin to settle down just a little bit. The moon is essentially full all weekend long, but she'll be going into Sagittarius as the weekend wanes, and that gives us kind of a little bit more of an upbeat, lighter feel than the scorpionic energy. So if there is tension, I want to say you feel it as early as Thursday, you know, but we have a lot of good aspects too. So if you're feeling the tension Thursday, Friday, as we get past Saturday, things should probably start to Saturday night, things should lighten up a little bit. We still have the moon looking very full, and now she'll be in Sagittarius, and it's kind of a positive sort of thing. So I think that midweek is your best chance for socializing, and then Saturday night would probably be the weekend night to do things. Personally, the thing about it is, you know, that Friday is Cinco de Mayo. Um, a little bit of caution with the tequila is suggested, but I mean, a lot of people will be out taking advantage of that full moon mayhem type of thing. You know, it could be quite a bit of fun. Anyways, the idea is have a good time, enjoy yourself, do what you want to do, be a little bit aware that things could get a little out of hand. And some folks, not you, but some folks are going to have difficulty with this energy. It's a little too much of a live wire, kind of ramped up energy for some folks to handle. You know, you might get a little irritable for just a brief moment or something like that. But some folks are going to maybe take it a little bit harder than others. So you just want to be aware of that as a potential. Shouldn't stop you from doing anything. Really, you know, this week does have this tense aspect, these tense aspects, and I could sort of see where on the collective level, what are you going to say about the collective level, right? You know, the collective just you know, the dominoes are just falling one after the other. But if you're dealing with this on the personal level, you know, sometimes this Plutonian intensity that we have can be quite healing and helpful and transformative. You know, I would say the worst part of it for many of us, with both of, you know, the Pluto station and the full moon, the worst part of it is the sense that we don't have much control. That's one thing that you don't have with Pluto Scorpio running the show. You don't have a great sense of control. Doesn't mean that, you know, doesn't mean that you're being taken to a bad place. Doesn't mean that, you know, Pluto is abducting you to the underworld. It's just that you don't have the sense of having a lot of control over what happens. But, you know, as I said, most of us, it'll be fairly minor stuff anyway, so that should be okay. And again, with focus, if you're, you know, when it comes to going out and play, follow Venus and Gemini's lead and just have fun. Keep it light. Keep it light. Have a good time. That's the socialized aspect. That's the sociable aspect of things. When it comes to work, focus, you know, hone in on the details. Even the moon in Virgo was going to help that earlier in the week. Focused, don't multitask, one thing at a time, concentrated, concentration. Good time, I would assume, for things like meditation. There's a lot of good potential in this week. Focus at work. Have a good time when it comes to playing. What more could you ask for? Okay, I'll see you at 11:30 Eastern time if it's Saturday. You know, sorry you missed it if it's after that.